everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how to draw the horse we're going to be doing in our how to use acrylic and watercolor class. This is part one. This is the how to draw a horse. Do I expect you to draw a horse? No. So if you check the description down below, you're going to see a list of materials, links to the website, and also a link to the traceable. So if you don't want to do this part of the lesson, you don't have to. It's just out there for you many guys who are like, can you show me how you draw this horse? On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He is helping me bring you this class by making sure the camera is pointing at what I'm doing and that you can see everything clearly, and also so that we can refilm it, because we actually did this live earlier, but due to solar activity and some mic challenges, we were getting a lot of interference. So we decided to film and re-release. Now, I want to go over materials, and then we're just going to really hop into the step-by-step, and I'm going to talk to you about why we're doing what we're doing, the decisions that we're making, especially in this, that we're doing this on a watercolor pad. So, materials. The first thing I'm going to talk about is that I'm doing my sketching or my concept art on a 1264 Fabriano mixed media multi-technique pad, and these are great because they're 120 pound, so they have a really good weight to them. They're heavy. They can take acrylic paint, they can take pencil, they can take pen, they can take any media, and they have these great perforated edges that when you pull them out, right, are true to size. And I'm going to show you how that can turn into a traceable for you right from the pad, which is pretty exciting. So it's perforated out. And why would I do that? Why would I draw my drawing on a separate pad than on my watercolor paper? Well, I'm going to show you my watercolor pad, and I've already done one on here. So this is my Aquil Watercolor Artistico Extra White Pad, 140 pound cold press, 100% cotton paper on a block. Well, this is about the best way to do acrylic in a watercolor technique. It prevents warping and buckling and all kinds of problems. It restretches the paper so it's easier to frame, and it has really fantastic weight and sizing so that you get great techniques and execution of those techniques from your acrylic and its watered down thing. But this paper can be kind of pricey, at least compared to the 1264 pads, which are much more economical. So by doing a traceable in there, hand drawing it out myself, I can then create a transfer, right, that I then lightly put onto the paper, so I'm not damaging the surface of my paper. And if I sort of shade here, you can see faint lines already on the pad, and that's from the transfer method. And you're really going to like how this works. So I've got my page opened up. We'll go step one, which is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go ahead and kind of tape out. I like to tape out a little edge so I know the size of my picture plane.
I'm going to stunt hand you all before we go too much.
Yeah. I do this so that there's sort of a bit of room on both my watercolor pad and on the page that I can tear out. And that lets them match up a little bit better. And it makes sure that the picture doesn't get too big or falls off my picture plane somewhere weird, or I get lost in it, just by giving myself these little boundaries. And I'm just using low tack tape. This is tape for paper, so it doesn't tear the paper and it doesn't damage anything. And it will give me that sense of like, I have guardrails and I'm not going to draw too far, because you can draw too far. You don't want to go too far. Now I am going to do something crazy, John.
Too far is good sometimes.
I'm going to use a Sharpie. And the reason I'm going to use a Sharpie, I want you guys to use a pencil so you can sketch and change your mind and erase and change your lines and everything. But I need to use a Sharpie so you can really, really see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Sharpie and put on my glasses so I can see really, really well. And I'm going to start to sketch in my horse's head. And we're going to look up there at our reference. And the first thing that's super important and super critical to the structure is this beautiful sloping jawline. Now, straight down from my jawline into the paper, I'm going to make a little mark right here. And that's going to help me put in a bit of little, kind of little wrinkles. They're very close. The neck is very close. Maybe I want to be a little more out here. Bringing out my little chest line. Coming down, creating this nice little shape right there. Now I'm going to come down a little bit above the chest, and I'm going to start to think about how my face is coming in. I'm going to bring some lines in, not too close together. We want some separation from this. I'm going to bring this line out farther than this one. And then I'm going to go bump, slightly bigger bump, bring in my little mouth, make a little line on my little mouth, little chin, and then you're going to want a little bit of chin to come down, right? Looking at your reference, this is on that angle. Now, because this is on that angle, little nostril is going to kind of flare out over here. And then I'm going to have a matching little bump right there. Now I'm going to bring this little line out. It's kind of like a little fork, and that's going to represent the nostrils. All right. Now here at the head, you want to start to widen it out. I don't need to go too far back, but I need to add a little bit of structure for an eye. That's sort of on the far side. I can't see the whole eye, but I know that it's there. This bone bumps up. And then I'm going to come directly up without drawing through my jawline where it would connect. And I'm going to make my little diamond shape for my ear. Right? Once I have that, I can do a little bump there, and kind of carry that in. And that's how I'm going to get that ear in there. Now, straight down from the jawline, kind of heading towards the nose. And if you go across here, if you match these two lines where they bisect, that helps me set my eye. And I'm going to make like a little downward facing kind of curve. Then I'll come forward with the front line of the eye, and I'm going to join these in a downward curve and sort of lip it a little thicker there. And if you want to make sure that you know where everything is, sometimes it helps to put in a little bit of the pupil looking down so you can see it. I'm not going to worry too much about my mane at this stage. I think I want to talk about a little bit about the musculature in the neck. Coming right in from where there is these sort of curls, I'm going to bring in a line coming down, and then not really particularly wider than this line. I'm going to bring another line coming in to represent where the horse is breathing through. Joining up here into the neck, I'm going to lightly show kind of that big structure of muscle that I'm going to be dealing with that comes down from the neck. Mentally, I'm going to make an arc right here from the top line of this, and you can also do it through the middle, but I find it's best to do it from the top line of the eye, just sort of a curve. And I want a nice wide representation of the neck coming out. So curve that down. You can adjust these lines if you're doing this in pencil, right? But since I'm doing these in pen, I'm being a little more particular about it. Once I have these two lines, I want to put in another line for the neck muscles that are here that I'm going to be shading in. And again, if this feels at all overwhelming, you can absolutely use a traceable. I'm going to come out from here, and right about here on the page, I'm going to bring in a bit of my little neck muscles, and then I'm going to do a little bump, another little bump, and a line coming off, and that's going to be the back of the horse, the little rump. So that's that in perspective. I'm not going to worry too much about the shoulder because this is all painted in lightly later, but you can, using this line here, dash in a little bit of a shoulder line. And I dash it in because I'm going to be using shading to get that in. I don't want to be too heavy with that. This is that same muscle structure that's coming here. And once I have those, right, I've got this right here, I can start to see how this all comes in and builds my forward muscles. Now, the forelock is covering the other ear. So all I've got to do is get the flow of the mane. And the first one I'm going to do is put a little dot right there. And I'm going to bring back a little bit of implied mane. This is a little forelock. There we go. Just sort of coming off the front of the horse. Curving this up. And then bringing this back like a wave. And I'm going to be doing a lot of these little waves. I like to treat the mane and forelock a bit like water in its motion. It really helps me see it. So like I'm going to have another little wave coming up here. It's going to end about here on the ear. Little lines curving in. Pulling that back there. And that's going to let me really see that part of the mane coming through. I'm going to want to have another nice little curve of hair that's coming back because we're tossing our mane. We're coming back and forth there. And then a little bit of that mane is going to be right here. A little bit coming forward there. And I'm using my reference. I've got my reference. You've got your reference up here. Now there's a neat little bit that sort of twists and curves out. So I like to think of these as like little ribbons of hair that we see them flow through.
It really adds a lot of motion.
It really adds a lot of motion. And I love that it does. That's a very good observation. Now maybe a little sister of motion that's here.
I do nothing but observe.
You do nothing but observe. Well, you do good observations, so. Now here, I'm going to want to bring forward some. And I'm going to curl back loose little open tendrils here. And I'm going to really pull this by using a shadow under the mane later. And by doing a highlight through here. I don't need to draw that in at this stage. And then we'll just connect this with some loose in action mane. Now, once I have all that drawn out, right? Once I have my drawing done, I can remove my tape very carefully. I like to save my tape because it's reusable. This is, again, the low-tack tape, and you just take it off the opposite way as you put it down. And I'm going to be matching that, to my final. And I've got this in pen. If you do it in pencil first, you're going to want to go over it in pen. I may need to pull this one off because I wrapped it around. Sometimes I get a little over enthusiastically taped. It's enthusiastic taping. Right?
Nothing wrong with some enthusiastic taping.
Nothing but enthusiastic taping. Now, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to tear this free. So when we come back, I'm going to show you how to tear it back on the perforated strip. So I don't want this to tear, and I want this to be able to match up, and there's a good perforation. I do think this pad has some of the best perforations that I've seen, but I'm going to fold that back, fold it back thoroughly, and I'm going to very carefully remove it. If you don't have perforations on your pad, you're going to want to cut it free and make sure that it's going to measure 9 by 12 so that it matches up with your watercolor paper. Now I'm going to do an interesting thing. I have this. This is my master drawing, right? I call these like traceables. And the reason that we do this again is the watercolor paper is expensive. I want to do my sketching on this pad. Right? If I wanted to change lines, if I wanted to erase, if I wanted to change my mind about where the ear is placed or the eye is placed, then being able to do this on this paper, which is quite heavyweight, is wonderful because we don't normally just freehand this in pen. Right? Normally we would do this in pencil, and it's pretty good. We can see on the back, but I'm going to grab a regular HB pencil that's been sharpened, and I'm going to rub all on the back of the paper with this HB pencil. Pretty heavily. Now I have a whole video on how to do the transfer method. I just want you guys to see how you can create a free-handed drawing and transfer it to a piece of watercolor paper. You can also just print out the traceable, which will base on this. You can print out the traceable and then do this technique there too and not have to do the free-handed part of the drawing if you're not ready for that.
Okay.
Right, because this horse, in the live, we showed a simple horse's head in construct, like what their simple structures are. But this horse's head is at an angle. It's got an eye that's sort of an unusual axis. Right. So I want to make sure that all the lines that I have, that's the other reason it's nice that even if you do in pencil, if you go over it in pen, that way you can use it again and again and again and again and again. Because once you've made one of these, you can use it again and again and again and again and again. They used to call these cartoons. Another tip is I like to come back through and kind of graphite in the opposite angle direction, just making sure that I've really graphited the paper well. HB pencil, not a special pencil. And I'm going to use a pen here and show you what I mean about the transfer. So say this is my watercolor paper. I would line this up to where I wanted it on my watercolor paper because I'm going to want to tape off an edge here and tape off edges here so I have framing. So I would line this up. And I'll grab some of my saved tape. And I'll only do a little bit of this, but I just want you to see the process, right? So I tape it in a couple of places on my watercolor pad. And I tape it a couple of places so it doesn't move. And then I might take a pen. I'm pressing very, very hard. Go over the lines that I made in my drawing. So let's say you made the best drawing of your life.
Right.
And you want to keep that. And believe you me, sometimes that'll happen.
That happens, right? Yeah.
Right? Best drawing of your life. You're like, man, I have made the best drawing of my life.
Until the next drawing.
Until the next drawing that's the best drawing of your life. Right? And you want to be able to use it again and again and again. Right? Another thing about this is if I wanted to change something, I can use this as a basis and maybe pin the ear back or move the mane or make a different decision about how I would want my little horse to be. I'm not going to worry about getting every line here. I just want you to see how it goes. Now I'm pressing pretty hard because this paper is quite thick and heavy. It's not light like tracing paper. You know, quite thick and heavy. It doesn't do the window method, which is another way of seeing it where you tape up your image in the window and then go over it using it like a light box. You know, maybe I can come in here and give it some different thoughts or ideas. So I'll show you what I mean about that there's a light transfer of the image. I don't know if John can adjust that there.
Yeah, give me a second. I can.
It's the lightest transfer.
See here, I can.
There you go. You can kind of see those lines there.
Yeah.
The lines are faintly there. If I bring up my watercolor pad, can you see the faint lines?
I can turn it down so you can faintly see them.
There we go.
That's how that works.
That's how I get that onto the paper. That's how you get that on. Now, you can do this method by freehanding the horse and practice those drawing skills, which I highly recommend. Or you can do this by using the traceable, and both of them are completely fine methods. But that's how you get a nice light line drawing on there that you're not using or messing with the surface of the watercolor paper, because this watercolor pad, this is a very special pad of paper. This company is 700 years old, 750 years old, technically. They are a heritage company. They've been in Italy like forever. Well, 750 years. And the sizing that everybody's paper uses, they created that sizing. And that is a surface treatment that allows the paint to work like watercolor on the paper surface. So I'm going to get like these gorgeous blooming techniques. And what that means is the paint's going to flow and ebb through the water and really look like I'm painting with watercolor, even though I'm painting with acrylic. But that is about this paper's sizing. It would be more challenging to get that on, say, Bristol paper, though you could. And the trick would be like you'd have to tape down all four edges of your paper and allow it to dry flat, because what happens when you get all the paper really wet is it does this thing where it waves. So that's why we're going through all of these weird steps to get the line drawing on this paper. And we like this because it has enhanced quality. I love that it says enhanced quality, improve color lifting, and increase surface resistance. It is vegan friendly. Don't eat your art supplies, but it's vegan if you were gonna. I like cold press, which is bumpy paper. Hot press is smooth paper. This is 140 pounds, and the size is 9 by 12. And then on the back of this, it talks a lot about their history and the fact that they don't pollute their water and all the stuff this company has done over the years, and you can go to their website and see it. And I do recommend this particular block specifically. Shameless plug, I sell it in my store, but I've been recommending it forever now before I ever sold it in my store. But I do have a friendship relationship with the company, so that's my disclosure. I like these guys. I have a friendship relationship with them, and I sell this pad in my thing. What you do have to have, though, is a watercolor block that's heavy enough for the acrylic paint. I recommend 140 pound. I like cold press because it creates a lot of bumpy, weird, interesting texture. And I think what happens with the block is that when the paper gets very, very wet, it re-dries very, very smooth. Now, if you're doing this part with me where you did the drawing, where did I put my drawing? If you did the drawing with me, if you did the drawing with me, and you can see how you could use this again and again and again and again and again, you're going to want to come back and paint this with me live, and we're going to use acrylic as watercolor and then layer it up more like gouache as we go, creating this really ephemeral, fun painting from this great reference, right? So, and you're like, where's the reference? So I have a version of it on my website on the how to draw video that is one just for you to look at because I can't redistribute it, but I got it from Shutterstock. But this is one that's my student reference copy, and it'll say that student reference copy, and it also went out in the newsletter. So if you're looking for where that is. And then of course the traceable, which you can use as a reference too. We always forget that the traceable is a reference, right? To practice the lines, to see how the lines go if you're wanting to practice your own freehand drawing. That's just free for download on my website. I'm allowed to just distribute that willy-nilly as I see fit.
Willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly. So that is the prep work for the next slide painting where we paint this horse in the watercolor technique. And that's how I would draw it and transfer it on to a paper surface if that was of interest to you. On a greater sense, guess what?
What's that?
I want you guys to take care of yourselves, get plenty of sleep, drink lots of water, make sure that you're eating. I want you to be good to yourself, be kind and gentle with yourself, and be kind and gentle with each other. And I will see you at the next class where we paint this together. Okay, bye-bye.